All right, dude, we are live. What's up, guys? This is Dem Keys, and today we are going to continue doing more Rust research. Now, um, yesterday and even the day before, so in the past 2 days, let's say, I've been getting really deep into web development research, but more specifically, web development through Rust, be it using the Rust language or be it using Rust-based tools. I've been looking into Rust-based web development, so I can create simple websites, but also add some sort of dynamicism to them. I don't do JavaScript. I've done a tiny bit of JavaScript in the past. I don't do JavaScript nearly enough to feel comfortable with trying to build, let's say, a gallery, for example. If I'm building a website, I'm going to be using a static site generator like Zola. And in that, let's say I wanted to add the functionality for a gallery of some sort. I am not comfortable enough with trying to build it using JavaScript. I know it's very much possible to do it, and I can find other people's creations. I would much rather use other people's creations in JavaScript rather than try and build it myself, because just accomplishing it is one thing, but doing a good job at it and making it look good and all of that stuff, that's another thing, right? That's like the next level, and I want to be able to do both of those things. In order to do both of those things, it has to be a language that I'm comfortable with, that I know a lot more about. And even though I'm a beginner in Rust, there's still quite a lot that I know about Rust and the language and the ecosystem and all of that stuff, to where I'm comfortable enough trying to do it in Rust. Now, this got me wondering that, okay, if I'm able to, so I was having a conversation with Gemini on another machine. I can um I can show the conversation. There was actually some information in this conversation that I'm not comfortable with showing. Um, so I need to be careful about how much of it I'm showing. I can't just show the entire conversation. Um, but I can show the conversation that doesn't reveal anything that I don't want revealed. Well, okay. Basically, my question, I can read it out, and then I can show you guys like the bottom part of the conversation, which is like the latest response. Um, Basically, I was asking Gemini to explain to me, um, like if I wanted to create functionality, then like what would be, how would I go about doing that? And it explained like bare bones kind of functionality, not really even something special, but the basic idea is that you would use HTML and CSS and JavaScript. HTML is what's going to hold the entire thing. CSS is what's going to control the aesthetics, and JavaScript is what controls all of the functionality, the dynamicism of it. Um, so I was asking Gemini that, okay, if I wanted to not build. I don't think my question was if I wanted to build something like this. I was trying to confirm that, hey, is it possible to do like a copy paste kind of situation? Like, is that a thing where people have provided these? I know that the answer is yes. I just wanted Gemini to tell me that, yeah, this is the case. And I also wanted Gemini to give me the steps for how exactly you go about doing that. So then Gemini said that, okay, yeah, there are multiple different ways. There are entire like websites where these kinds of tools are being built. There are tools for sale. There are also tools that are completely open source. There's a massive open source community. So we had a conversation about that, and that was surrounding JavaScript. And then this got me wondering, okay, since I do plan on doing WASM stuff when it comes to web development, why don't I try to include that in here somehow? Okay, and then that brought me to this question here. This is where the conversation became kind of interesting, um, because what do you call what do you call it? Uh, Gemini mentioned to me that, okay, so you would have to load the WASM binary into a WASM runtime, right? uh, this WASM binary needs to be downloaded. It and by default it has a certain size, right? It's not a very big size, but like it has some size, right? So you don't want to have to be downloading that every single time. So I was like, okay, what if I have my main question was, okay, what if I have a web page, and on the web page I have multiple different components for which I want to create functionality using WASM. Would it be better to have multiple WASM modules for each one of them, as in multiple WASM binaries and projects and stuff for each one of them, or is it possible to have one WASM binary and then selectively load functionality? It turns out that is what you would that is exactly how you're supposed to be doing it. You're supposed to have one binary and then selectively load things based on various conditions. In this case, the conditions would be which specific ID it's trying to load for a certain element, because HTML elements can have IDs, and also which page it's being loaded for. So the good news is that you can have just one WASM binary, and then that one binary can load data, or load whatever functionality and aesthetics and all of the stuff. It can load everything depending on. So you can have selective loading essentially. It can load everything depending on which component it's trying to render to, which page it's running on, and all those kinds of conditions. So I think I'm not going to be doing JavaScript. I'm going to be doing WASM. There's going to be a bunch of WASM stuff going on. Now, okay, Gemini mentioned this thing about the div tag and the ID tag and stuff like that. Well, div tag and ID field, I should say. And I haven't touched HTML in a while, so I kind of wanted Gemini to, and even back when I did do HTML, I didn't fully understand the programmatic side of the ID thing. I just understood that, okay, the ID thing um, gives an element and essentially an ID that it can be identified by, uh, be it like it can be identified by when you're doing JavaScript stuff, and I believe also CSS stuff. The ID helps in that, but that's about it. That's about as far as my understanding went. So I kind of wanted Gemini to spell the entire thing out for me, and so I asked the question. Now, um, this is where. Hold on, I want to show you guys. Oh wait, by the way, I'm not sure how stable the stream is going to be right now, because my machine, dude, I was supposed to start this stream like an hour ago, but the machine, it kept my laptop, it kept misbehaving, because of which I wasn't able to start the thing up. And now I did manage to get it started up, but then there's these random hitches, which fortunately we haven't lost frames on the stream yet. So far it's just my OBS freezing. Now I'm just looking for. Okay, but this involves WASM, and you mentioned that and you mentioned that can be heavy. I'm talking about producing JS directly. Okay, yeah. I'm gonna load this entire thing up, and then within this conversation, you're gonna notice I also asked Gemini about, hey, is there a way that I can convert? I can write code in Rust, but then have it be compiled to a JavaScript equivalent in some way. And I knew that it's still a little bit complicated to actually test that out because um, like JavaScript is like it's directly interacting with the various elements on the web page, right? You need to also be able to test out what code you're writing. So things would get a little bit complicated there, but I still wanted to know if there's a way that I can set that up. Turns out, no, there isn't like a direct equivalent. However, the good news is I was planning on doing the WASM thing anyways, but then now that I have this information about like how you can use WASM in a much more efficient way, now I'm planning on doing it even more. Like now I'm definitely planning on using WASM and Dioxys, by the way, because I feel like through this I would be able to add custom dynamic elements to the static sites, because I have a couple of sites in mind that I want to make. These are like all for like personal purposes, to help like family members out for various purposes. So I was looking at Zola themes, various themes that are made with Zola, that are made for Zola websites or for the Zola framework. I'm not sure how to say it. For the Zola framework. I was looking at various Zola themes that I can use, and I found a couple of them. What I want to do is use those themes, but then also modify the web pages that are using those themes to include certain dynamic elements of my own. And for that, I'm going to be using Dioxys. Now, initially, when I learned about Dioxys, what I learned was that it's a single page app kind of deal, right? In my mind, that what I was imagining was that it's the entire page, or like it's one section of the page, but like it's that one contained section. Everything is within that one container itself. But it turns out that that's not the case. It's like the WASM binary is running in the background, right? That binary from that, like that runtime itself is able to control multiple different elements on the page. You're not limited to just one section. So keeping that in mind, you could use this same binary to control multiple sections and have like dynamic functionality in multiple elements on the web page, all being controlled by the same WASM binary. So technically, that also counts as a single page app because the binary is running on that one page, but it's controlling the web page in different ways. And I found this kind of interesting. Like this is actually getting me a little more interested in web development. The fact that you can have this kind of functionality where you're able to like control multiple different elements using one binary itself. Like it's not all within one container. You can control multiple elements of the web page in different ways. I feel like there's a bunch of interesting stuff that I would be able to do with that, and I kind of want to explore that possibility. I don't really want to get too carried away with it because there's a shitload of other stuff that we need to be learning, dude. Like there's so much other stuff that I've got in the backlog. Oh my God. But this is definitely important. The website thing is important, and I do want to explore this, so I could make my own personal website to host on GitHub pages. And then also there's two additional websites that I want to make for some family members, for their own purposes, for their businesses. Okay, so uh, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna copy this entire response, hoping that there's no extra information in here. Just give me a second while I set that whole thing up. Okay, okay, okay. All right. Okay, here's the thing. I do Rust and would very much like to remain in Rust land without having to touch JavaScript. Is there any way the components I want to write can be written in Rust using some framework, but compiled and produce the necessary HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, etc. I'm talking about components here, not entire pages. Okay. Yeah. So we have this response as well. There's another thing that I need to see if I'm actually able to show that. Okay, hear me out. I'm planning on doing Rust WASM stuff using Dioxys. Um, I have to learn that first. What I'm wondering is the way I was gonna add custom features using the HTML, CSS, and JS blocks. Would I be would I also be able to work on similar functionality but create the entire component using something like Dioxys and then export it to WASM so it can be used? Would that even work out for adding multiple small components of various types, or would WASM load a bunch of unnecessarily heavy stuff? Dude, so this is where I actually got, wait, hold on. What are you showing here? Wrong window to be showing. What is this? Oh, yeah, this is what's supposed to be shown. I just realized that. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so I forgot what I was gonna say. But I did also have a conversation with Gemini about like is loading WASM gonna load up a bunch of heavy stuff? Not unnecessarily heavy, but like I mean it's necessary. That's why it's being loaded. That's obvious, right? I didn't mean to say unnecessarily heavy, but like it would be considered unnecessarily heavy if you have multiple of these runtimes running and each runtime is loading up a bunch of stuff and taking up a bunch of CPU time and stuff like that. So I wanted Gemini to give me like a more performance friendly way of doing it. Also, I need to look into um, how you go about doing like if that is necessary, then how you would go about doing the whole like multi-threading thing, and also if Tokyo and async is a thing in WASM land. I don't think Tokyo might be a thing, but like I need to see if there's like a I'm sure there is, but I need to see if there's a multi-threading slash async equivalent of Tokyo in WASM land, and is the transition is like do they translate like does it translate well, or do I have to do something special in order to make that happen? I'm sure Dioxys handles a bunch of things for you, and whatever other tools are being used for converting your Rust logic to WASM. I'm sure they handle a bunch of things for you, but I need to look into this as well. Okay, so I just found the thing. I just found the section that I probably wouldn't be showing. Wait, so this JavaScript idea is great. It also made me wonder if there's like a thing where people have made code snippets. Oh yeah, this was what I'd asked. You know what I could do? I could read this out. Um, yeah, I could read this out to you guys, and then the section below that, and like everything after that, basically, I could then um, yeah, the section below that and everything after that, basically, I could have that be exported. Well, I'll be exporting the entire conversation, but then I can copy that specific portion, and I can open it up in a NeoVim project here and save it, and then open that up in Markdown. So give me a second here. Chat, what was it? Export, share, share. Chat, share. Gemini explains Rust, WASM, Zola, Dioxys, yeah, whatever. Um, yeah, okay. So we're gonna export this. We're gonna open this up in NeoVim so I can copy the section that I want. All right, give me a second here. Hold on, is my, okay, yeah, my model is still responding. Dude, I need to get to work on Nano quick, dude. I want to build something in Nano so I can like change up my VTuber setup, essentially. But yeah, okay. Scratch stuff, empty directory, list. Yeah, let's open up Gemini explains this. Okay, so that's loaded up. Now, I had also asked about like a Google Maps widget. Okay, wait, so this JavaScript idea is great. Okay, okay. Now down here, is there anything extra? Okay, interactively, all right, okay, okay, okay. Process, find, integrate, customize. All right, okay. Custom gallery. And I think further from this point, we should be good. Um, yeah, I think further from this point, we should be good. Because I did ask a question later on about, yeah, you know what? I think I can paste from this point on. Okay, so let's yank all the way to the end and then close this. And then here I need to open up NeoVim, scratch stuff, Gemini. Wait, wrong. I just realized wrong thing. I need to be opening it up here, I think. Give me a second here because it seems like this thing is a bit stuck. Okay, we're good now. NeoVim, Gemini explains Rust, WASM, Zola, Dioxys, .md. Dude, I swear, the system itself is really quick. It's SSH that creates this weird delay. It's not even like SSH. It's something. It's an issue specifically on the machine on which I'm currently typing on. I wouldn't have this SSH issue on any other machine, and that really makes me wonder if I should be looking into alternate ways to connect, like um I don't know, because currently on this machine, I'm using the Wi-Fi adapter, as in I'm connected through Wi-Fi. Like that laptop is connected to the router through Wi-Fi. All right. Okay. So we can close this and open up Frogmouth. Okay. Give it a second here because on the other machine it hasn't arrived yet. Though, okay, I could just continue from here. Okay. So, um, I had asked the question. I can actually read out the other, like what was above this, and then we can continue from there. Because this is a decently long conversation, lots of stuff to read here. If you look at the scroll bar on the right side, you can see there's quite a bit of information here, very useful information. This actually taught me a lot. And this is what has made me a lot more confident about jumping into Dioxys. And this has also helped me decide uh, to learn both Nano and Dioxys. So Nano is going to be more for anything graphics and game dev related. But if it's something, some kind of functionality that I need to build, like previously I was planning on building a sort of, what do you even call it? It was going to be a sort of tool that lets people explore a knowledge base. Yeah, I was going to build an interface for a knowledge base that I have. It's just a knowledge base that I've created that I'm going to be soon exporting to, um, no, soon posting on GitHub. And further from that point, there's going to be regular updates to that knowledge base. This knowledge base, I want it to be on my on my website as well. I still haven't fully decided like how I want to go about doing that because I do want the knowledge base to contribute to SEO, but for that the knowledge base would have to be, completely in HTML form. So I need to look into if there's like um I need to look into what's the right way to go about this whole thing. Okay, where was I? Here. Um, I was asking a question about JavaScript. Wait, is it the right conversation? Yeah, let's scroll up and okay. Oh, actually, you know what? I think this gives the information that I was looking for. What was that thing above? Because above there, I was asking a question about a gallery, adding a custom gallery option in on the website, but yeah, I don't think I need to read that one out because that then led to this. In the gallery thing, like I was asking Gemini that okay, what if I wanted to like okay, I'm gonna select a Zola theme, right? And I'm gonna go with that theme and I'm gonna use whatever features the theme itself offers. What if I wanted to add my own functionality into that? What are my options? I know that it's very much possible because I've done a bit of web development in the past. You can customize things. How good those customizations are going to look, that's debatable. That's a different story. But you can customize things. You can customize functionality. You can customize appearance. You can customize a bunch of things. I just wanted Gemini to like again spell it out for me. So I asked, okay, if I wanted to implement my own gallery, then how would I go about doing this? And Gemini gave three separate methods for doing it. One was the very simple approach, very basic HTML stuff where you hard code all the images into the web page. Another was using a custom gallery. I believe that uses um, either JS or Zola's own site structure. And then there was one more thing. The third option, oh, the third option was JS. That was the JavaScript approach. The second option was trying to use Zola's own website structure, the way that Zola structures the files before they are, you know, converted into the final form. And actually also how, no, mainly how it handles the structure before it's converted. But yeah, those were the options that were given. And then because words because JavaScript was mentioned, that's why I got this thought. So this is where our conversation here continues, or begins, I guess. So I said, wait, so this JavaScript idea is great. It also made me wonder if there's like a thing where people have made code snippets for setting up. This is where I was trying to get it to spell things out for me, because like I know that HTML, CSS, and JavaScript like snippets, you can find tons of them online. Very very good quality ones made by very experienced web developers who just wanted to help the community with good quality tools and good quality um, assets and plugins and stuff. Like there's a lot of people who have contributed a lot to the web development community. I just wanted Gemini to like spell that out for me. So where was I? Yeah, it also made me wonder if there's like a thing where people have made code snippets for setting up static galleries too. Why did I use the term static? Is it because it's a static site? I don't remember why I used the term static. Maybe because it was maybe because it's a static site, a website that's not really that only has a front end. It doesn't really have a back end. It's not really interacting with a server for its functionality. Um, Yeah, I'm also wondering if there's a bunch of other functionality I could add, be it JS or static, using other people's provided code. How does that whole system even work? I don't do much web development, so I don't know. I only have very basic HTML, CSS, and JavaScript knowledge. So, um, then Gemini gave me this response saying, "This is a fantastic question, and it gets to the very heart of modern web development. You've stumbled upon a core concept. The web is built on sharing and reusing code." The answer is a huge yes. There's a massive, vibrant ecosystem of people creating and sharing code snippets, components, and full libraries for exactly what you're describing. Let me explain how this whole system works from a beginner's perspective. Okay, then it gave like a Lego blocks analogy, which was great. It explained, the HTML and CSS and JavaScript part. And then it said when you find a code snippet or a component online, you're essentially finding a pre-made Lego block, that is the HTML, CSS, and sometimes JavaScript that someone else designed. Your job is to simply snap it into your Zola project. The three-step process: um, find, integrate, and customize. Here's the general workflow you would follow for any pre-built component to your site. Find what you need. So it gave a bunch of resources where I can find, various, let's say, plugins or any specific components that I want to add to my website. Then integrate the code with Zola. This is the part that seems tricky, and it's just about knowing where to put different pieces of code. The HTML. This is the easiest part. You copy the HTML structure of the component and paste it directly into your Zola markdown file. I didn't know this. See, I knew how to go about doing this with HTML, because like in the HTML, on the HTML side, or when you are looking for these various components, they'll often have instructions saying that, okay, in the HTML you have to paste this, on the JavaScript side you have to paste that, and CSS you have to paste that, and all of that. Quite often the CSS might be like a separate file of its own, or it might be a small code block that you would put into your existing CSS file. Um, but I didn't know how you would go about doing it in Zola, because in Zola you describe the content page using a markdown file, and then that content page gets converted to the actual web page with the theme applied. So Zola basically does the heavy duty work of combining the content that you're creating along with into combining the content you're creating with the theme that you have selected, so that the final web page looks like, okay, this is the theme, and or this is the website in which you have created this content, and this website is following so and so theme. Okay, where was I? Yeah, so HTML, this is the easiest part. You copy the HTML structure of the component and paste it directly into your Zola markdown file, where you want it to appear. Okay, then the CSS, you have two main options. Uh, the quick and dirty option, which is you paste the CSS styles inside style tags directly in your markdown file. This works, but it's not very organized. Then the other way is the proper Zola way. You create a new CSS file in your static folder, for example, so and so, and then paste the CSS code into that file, and then open your main template file and add a link to your new CSS to your new style sheet in the head section. This tells every page on your site to load these styles. Okay, then the JavaScript, if any. This is very similar to CSS. The proper Zola way: save the JS code in a new file, for example, whatever, and then open the template and add the script tag to load it, usually closing, right before the closing body tag. Just a second. Um, right. Okay. Then step three, customize. Once once the component is showing up on your page, you can edit the HTML you pasted. You'll change the placeholder text to your own and swap out the placeholder image URLs with the paths to your oh, okay, just change the image to uh, whatever the path of your images is. All right, cool. Okay, so then that's where I got interested in throwing WASM into the mix. So I said, okay, now hear me out. I'm planning on doing Rust slash WASM stuff using Dioxys. I have to learn that first. What I'm wondering is the way I was gonna add custom features using the HTML, CSS, and JS blocks. Would I also be able to work on similar functionality, but create the entire component using something like Dioxys and then export it to WASM so it can be used? Would that even work out for adding multiple small components of various types, or would WASM load a bunch of unnecessarily heavy stuff? Um, the unnecessarily heavy stuff I was talking about was basically like the runtime, because the module gets loaded into a runtime, and the runtime has like a bunch of functionality that's loaded. So I was wondering. you know, what's the more optimized approach there? Okay, so then Gemini responded saying, this is a brilliant and very forward thinking question. You're moving from a consumer of web components to a creator, and you're thinking about using a powerful modern toolchain to do it. The short answer is yes, you absolutely can build components in Dioxys, compile them to WASM, and embed them in your Zola site. However, there are crucial trade-offs, and it's not the right tool for every small component. Let's break down how this works, the pros and cons, and when you choose one over the other. Okay, how Dioxys slash WASM integration works. Think of your Dioxys application not as a small Lego block like a JavaScript snippet, but as a self-contained prefabricated room that you drop into your larger Zola house. This room comes with its own engine, that's the WASM runtime, and all its own furniture, your Dioxys components. Here's the process. You develop your Dioxys app. Um, you would create a new separate Dioxys project. In this project, you'd build your component. Let's say it's an interactive catering quote calculator. Okay. Um, compile to WASM. You would run the command Dioxys build so and so. This compiles your Rust code into a WASM binary. It also creates a small JavaScript loader file um, needed to initialize the WASM app in your browser. Then place the files in Zola. Oh wait, I just realized something. Hold on, just a second. Actually, now that I've paused, let me also take a let me also take a sip of my energy drink and also um, hydrate, and then I can continue talking. Holy shit, we've been streaming for 42 minutes already. Nice. Okay, give me a second. Yeah, the thing is, I wasn't sure if I was gonna like how long I was gonna be able to go for today, but hell yeah, dude. Yeah, yeah. Give me a second. Right. Okay. So, where was I? Okay. Yeah. It also creates a small JavaScript loader file needed to initialize the WASM app in the browser. Then place the files in Zola. The Dioxys build process creates a dist folder containing so and so. That's the JavaScript loader, the WASM code, and an index.html file, which we will mostly ignore. You would copy the JS and WASM files into your Zola site's static directory. Okay. Then embed in Zola. In the Zola page where you want your component to appear, you do two things. Create an empty div with a specific ID. This is the docking part of your app. And then add a script tag to the base.html template. Wait, in the Zola page where your thing is gonna appear, page.html. So that's in the template or in a markdown file. Okay, you can do. two things. So we wait just a second. Okay, so um, right. So we add the div, and then we also add a script tag to your base.html template to load the JavaScript loader. This script will find your div and boot up the WASM application inside it. I need to understand that. It'll find your div and then boot up the WASM application inside it. I need to understand like what's going on here. Because there might be situations where I don't need to load the binary, so I don't necessarily always want the WASM runtime being loaded. Though I could find out how heavy loading it ends up being. That would 100% depend on how heavy the application that I'm making is. But yeah, I need to see how heavy it is in terms of loading. If it's negligible, then I don't think I need to worry about it. I can just drop it into, though. Okay, if I'm putting it into, yeah, okay, I need to see how the whole thing, how that whole structure works, because yeah, I need to see if selective loading is possible. Yeah, this script will find your div and boot up the WASM application inside it. Oh, this is the script tag. Okay. In template so and so before the body tag, and then we have so that's the loader. Okay. All right. Answering your core questions. Would it work for adding multiple small components? Yes, but with a major caveat. You have two approaches. Approach A, which is recommended, is you have one Dioxys app and multiple components. You would build, and this is where I got interested in the whole thing. This is where I realized that okay, you're not limited to one container. You can actually control multiple elements of the website. But yeah, okay. You would build one Dioxys application. Um, yeah, one Dioxys application that contains the logic for all your custom components. You could then tell it which component to render based on the ID of the div it finds on the hold on. You can then tell it which component to render based on the ID of the div it finds on the page. Oh, this was the point. This was the part where I was like, okay, this is how you would do selective loading. I do need to understand the concept of, div and ID and all of that stuff again. ID, I have very basic knowledge of it. Div, I've only ever known it to be a container of sorts, but because I don't do too much web development, so I don't really fully understand what that whole tag entails. That comes more like later in the conversation. That because I did ask Gemini to give me information about this. This is efficient. Oh yeah, okay. You could then tell it which component to render based on the ID of the div it finds on the page. This is efficient because the user only has to download one WASM file that can power multiple interactive elements. And then approach B is a separate WASM app for each component. If you build and compile a different Dioxys project for every single small component, each one will come with its own WASM binary and runtime. This would be incredibly inefficient and slow, as the user would have to download multiple large WASM files. Would WASM load unnecessarily heavy stuff? For small single components, yes, absolutely. This is the most important trade off to understand the cost of admission. A minimal Hello World application in Dioxys compiled to WASM might be 200 to 500 KB. In contrast, a simple JavaScript snippet to hide slash show, that was so hard to say, to hide/show an element might be less than 1 KB. Why is it so big? The WASM file doesn't just contain your component's code, it contains a significant portion of the Rust standard library, the entire Dioxys virtual DOM engine, and all the logic needed to manage state, handle events, and update the UI. You are essentially shipping a mini framework with your component. A clear rule of thumb: when to use JS and when to use Dioxys slash WASM. Um, this will help you decide which tool is right for the job. Use plain JS or a small library when you are doing simple DOM manipulation, hiding slash showing elements, adding CSS classes, simple animations. The component is mostly for presentation. An image gallery, a carousel, a back to top button. You need you need to integrate. You need to integrate third-party services like a contact form or a map widget. This was actually I learned this from Gemini as well. Like it would be easy to. I was actually concerned because I did want to add um, what is it called, a Google Maps widget that shows the map along with a specific location for the business. I did want to add that to the website as well. And I was like, okay, am I going to need some kind of like, is there going to be some API related stuff? But it turns out no. You can, from Google Maps, you can you can, there's a share option, and you can get like an embedded link that you can embed into a web page very easily. Yeah, the last point is you care deeply about the fastest possible initial page load. Example, a static image library, a testimonial slider, an accordion FAQ. Not sure what that is. Okay, then you use Dioxys slash WASM when you are building a complex stateful mini application within a page. The component requires significant client-side logic or computation, complex calculations, real-time filtering, or searching of a large data set, interactive visualizations, etc. Okay, you want the safety and performance of Rust for a complex piece of functionality, or you are building something that feels more like an app than a document. Exam. Uh, yeah, don't worry about that. Okay. So okay, here's the thing. I do Rust. Um, wait, just a minute. Oh, actually, yeah. I have to check something here on another machine. Where was this? Okay, yeah. Um, just a second. Right. Shit. I oh, hold on. Sorry about that. I got distracted because I'm also watching Zentrea's stream on another machine, and I was doing something on my phone. Okay. All right. So, um, right. So then I continued the conversation. I said, okay, here's the thing. Okay, here's the thing. I do Rust and would very much like to remain in Rust land without having to touch JavaScript. This is actually true. I want to do as little JavaScript as um, possible. Not because I hate the language, it's just that if I'm going to be building any functionality in a specific language, that would mean that I would have to explore that ecosystem and get a better understanding of how things are working. And then that's going to take me into like a whole different section of research, which that's why I don't want to go too deep into it. Because like if I'm going to be programming for something, I need to understand that whole environment and how things are working. That's kind of why I'm doing all of this research so I can properly understand the environment. So I don't want to add JavaScript to that that research list as well. Um, where was I? Yeah. Is there any way the components I want to write can be written in Rust using some framework, but then compiled and produce the necessary HTML, CSS, JavaScript, etc.? I'm talking about components here, not entire pages. So this is where I believe Gemini thought I was talking about compiling to WASM. I was talking about JavaScript specifically. Like, I was wondering if there was a way that I could code in Rust and have the result be snippets for HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Turns out there isn't like a straightforward way of doing that, or if there is a way, it might be part of some other framework that I'm gonna have to explore from how do I say this? It might be that functionality might be part of some other web development framework, Rust-based web development, but like another web development framework, and I feel like I shouldn't be exploring that a whole lot because it's not a very straightforward solution. Anyways, Gemini said, yes, absolutely. You have perfectly described the core promise of the entire Rust front-end ecosystem. The paradigm you're looking for is writing components in a Rust framework and compiling them to WebAssembly. You stay 100% in Rust, and the tooling handles the generation of the necessary web assets. Let me clarify the mental model because it's slightly different from what you might be thinking, but it achieves exactly the result. So at this point, I just realized I'm basically doing like a recap of the conversation that I had early on with Rust, Gemini, about Rust. With I'm basically just recapping the conversation that I had early on with Gemini. Um, but yeah, anyways, um, where yeah, okay. At this point, I was still trying to find a Rust to HTML slash CSS slash JS kind of tool. I was still kind of iffy about the WASM thing, especially after Gemini mentioned that, yeah, it does load a bunch of stuff, a bunch of extra stuff. So I was like, okay, is it possible to do it with only, like, is it possible to do the Rust to HTML, CSS, JS? I was still kind of holding on to that. Later on in the conversation, I went on to WASM and I was like, okay, since there is a way to have one WASM app running that controls multiple different components on the web page that are in different sections, not even all together, not all part of one container. You can actually control multiple different components. Since that is possible, so let me explore the WASM route more. And this is great because now I can just remain in WASM. WASM? Remain in Rust. I don't need to go too deep into, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. There is still a small amount of it that I have to do, but not so much that, um, I have to know a whole lot of, not so much that I have to do a whole lot of coding in either of these. Um, where was I? You stay 100% in Rust and the tooling handles the generation of the necessary web assets. Let me clarify so and so, so and so, so and so. Okay. The modern Rust slash WASM workflow. You don't write Rust that outputs static HTML and CSS files. Instead, you write Rust code that becomes the browser. Okay? Your Rust code runs inside the user's browser and is responsible for creating, managing, and updating HTML elements of your component in real time. Here is the step by step breakdown. Dude, keeping this in mind, I wonder if I would be able to incorporate Ratatouille applications somehow, or Ratatouille. Well, no, that might become a bit complicated. Yeah, yeah, no, because that whole thing of being able to um, selectively load different functionality based on which div is currently being rendered. I think that functionality is only possible because of Dioxys. I don't think that would be possible with bare bones WASM bind gen kind of thing. Or it would be possible, but there would be a whole lot of work I would need to do. So yeah, maybe I should just stick with, yeah, let me not unnecessarily complicate things for myself. Right. Um, so here's a step-by-step breakdown. You choose a framework, you pick a Rust front-end framework. Since you mentioned it, Dioxys is a perfect example. Other major players are Leptos, U, and Sycamore. Okay. You write your own component in Rust. No, you write your component in Rust. Inside your chosen framework, you write a function that looks and feels like a regular Rust function. To define the HTML structure, you use a special macro like RSX in Dioxys and View in Leptos that lets you write something that looks almost exactly like HTML but directly inside your Rust code. So I'm guessing this is how you would describe your UI and stuff. This is the magic part. You get to define your component structure, style, and logic in one place using one language. Yeah, here it is. Oh, this is what they mean. Oh, that's interesting, dude. Hold on. No, that is actually really interesting. Being able to do it in this way, being able to do it in this way would be really cool. Yeah, because usually this would be within like a div tag. There would be a div open and div close tag, and then there would be a h1 open. I think there's an h1 close tag. I don't remember. Then there's a button tag as well, and like within the button tag you have these fields like on click and stuff like that. Usually on click will point towards a function that exists, or well, usually on click will give some sort of function name, or it'll have some sort of function name, and generally that function is already defined in a preloaded JavaScript file. But in this case, we are using closures, which is cool, dude. Okay, so this way we can actually control a bunch of the components. Dude, this is really cool. Okay, okay, this is exciting. This is exciting. This way I can control. Wait, what did I just hit? Yeah, that was my mistake. Um, we can get there quick. We can get there. Yeah, okay. This is cool. This is I'm excited for this. I'm excited to explore Dioxys because I feel like there's a bunch of fun web development stuff that I can do, and now I can do it with Rust. So I want to see like I want to see what I can do, dude. Like imagine being able to build the entire page using, I mean, not imagine, you could very easily do that. It's just that it wouldn't be very SEO friendly. Um because like Google would not have a whole lot of information to index from the page unless I put a bunch of unnecessary information within the page somehow. I should actually look into that. Yeah, I should look into that. If there's a way to like um, spam, but like secretly spam a bunch of keywords. Though I don't know if that's going to cause if that's going to cause Google's systems to flag my site, and then they'll just decide to not show it at all. That's a possibility as well. So I don't want to like try and game the system and then cause unnecessary problems. Yeah, I can. Okay, we can look into it. But for now, I'm excited to test this whole thing out. I can look into. There's a bunch of things for me to look into here. I need to try and understand. So okay, I want Gemini to explain this whole thing to me. I know that div is a tag, h1 is a tag, button is a tag. There's a bunch of other different types of tags. I believe table was a tag, image is a tag. There's a bunch of different tags. I know that, but I want Gemini to explain to me. Um, I want Gemini to explain to me this concept as if I don't know HTML at all. So I'm going to create a prompt because I know HTML, very basic, obviously, very basic HTML. But like I know enough to know that, yeah, these are tags, right? These are HTML tags that already exist. But what I want to do is just so I can learn, just so I can get the full picture, I'm going to pretend like I don't know anything about HTML. And I'm going to be like, okay, I don't know any HTML and I'm noticing all these tags and stuff here. So, can you explain to me exactly what these things mean? And if there's like a HTML equivalent of that, and what exactly it means on the HTML side, and like then we can go from there. I feel like that would be an interesting prompt for me to explore. I'm going to get to learn a lot there. Dude, there's so much stuff that I want to do. There's a bunch of these conversations that I'm having with Gemini, especially the Gemini teaches me stuff. Gemini explains. I'm gonna make it like a series kind of thing, and these conversations, not all of them, um, but many of them, I'm gonna export them in Markdown format and then post them to my to the website in I'm gonna have to find because like as much as I want to do it in a dynamic way, um it might be a little bit complicated. I could still do it in a dynamic way. Like the content could still be in the page, but then I could make the components that are displaying the content dynamic. So then I could make it like um the content is part of the page, but then I can script. And dude, I could script animation. I could script animation. Like I could push CSS out of this thing. I mean, I would probably also be controlling the CSS, but like I could push CSS out, or I shouldn't say push CSS out. I would not have to touch CSS. I could try and control animations and make the content dynamic within the website itself. So that way, when I'm building the site using Zola, the content is going to be part of the web page. So Google is still going to be able to index the page, and the information is still going to count towards SEO. But then once you load the page, there's going to be dynamic elements displaying that information. I need to make sure that I make it such that the the information is part of the web page. The information is not part of the binary, which is then loading the information into the web page elements. I need to keep that in mind. Anyways, so that's our code. You compile to WebAssembly. You use a build tool like Dioxys CLI or Trunk. When you run the build command, it compiles your Rust code into two key files. um, my component app.wasm, which is a binary file containing all your components' logic, the framework's engine, and the Rust standard library. This is the high performance core of your component. Then my component app.js, this is a small JavaScript glue or loader file. The role of the glue JS file, you ask to avoid JS, and you do. You don't write a single line of it. However, yeah, that's actually what I was trying to avoid. Having to write it, having to write JS, not there's no issue with just copy pasting specific JS snippets if need be. So it mentions you ask to avoid JS, and you do. You don't write a single line of it. However, the compiler generates a small JS file for a crucial reason. Browsers don't know how to start a WASM file on their own. This JS file's only job is to tell the browser how to download the WASM file and then initialize the WASM module. No, tell the browser to download the WASM file, initialize the WASM module, and then tell the running Rust code which div on your page it should take control of. This part is important. The fact that I'm able to tell the Rust code which div it should take control of, that's telling me something. I can play around with stuff, dude. I can play around with stuff here. I should try working on um, Zola sites without any themes first, just so I get a hang of it. So I'll create very basic, very bare bones, a very bare bones site. And then in there, once I get a hang of, okay, this component does this, that component does that, then I'll try and incorporate the WASM, a simple WASM program in there to move things around. For example, like maybe take a text component and just move it around the screen. I feel like that would be an interesting project to explore. Though I'm gonna have to first learn the basics of Zola and make progress with that, then learn the basics of what is it, Dioxys, and then make progress with that. Um, yeah, yeah. Okay. You integrate into Zola. You treat your compiled WASM component just like you would a third-party JS library. You treat your compiled WASM component just like you would a third-party JS library. You place the WASM and JS files into your Zola static directory, and in the Zola page where you want the component, you add an empty div to act as a placeholder. Okay, you add the script tag to your Zola template to load the JS glue, which brings your component to life inside that div. Okay, so to directly answer your question, can components be written in Rust using a framework? Yes. This is a primary way to. Oh, what did I just do? Okay, just a second. Okay, What was I saying? Oh, no, I was reading this. Yes, the primary way to do front-end web development in oh, this is the primary way to do front-end web development in Rust. Does it produce the necessary HTML, CSS, Java, JavaScript? It produces the JS and WASM that will in turn generate and manage the HTML live in the browser. You handle CSS separately. Oh, dude. Um, I feel like there's another. So I just realized this. The fact that this stuff is being described like this probably means that these things are being generated at runtime. That's something I need to take into account. That I don't want things to be generated at runtime. If I want them to be part of SEO, I don't want things to be generated at runtime. Of course, there would be situations where I would want them to be generated at runtime, but um, yeah, there would definitely be situations where I don't want them to be made at runtime. I want them to be part of part of the page already. That being said, if I'm trying to display something like an entire knowledge base, um, because like let me show you guys what I mean by a knowledge base. Okay, um, where was it? Here. Um, T journal. So T-Journal is the application that I use for, well, journaling. I use it mainly as my knowledge base. When I have any sort of information that I feel like, um, hold on. Oh, just a second. This thing got a bit stuck. Yeah. Um, Let me just reopen that. Okay. My God, dude, this lag is making it hard to show this. So I'm just going to do it from here. So this is the knowledge base, right? Here, each entry is for specific purposes. Is there a way for me to just go there? Yes, there is. So this, for example, this is where I created an entry for UV package, the UV package manager, package and project manager tool. UV is a Rust-based tool, and when I first learned about this tool, I was having some trouble with the workflow. So once I did figure out the workflow, I was like, okay, let me make a journal entry for this. All right, cool. Now, next you have something like, okay, ESP32 is a great example. How do I display this for you guys? Actually, okay, I could I could open this up in NeoVim, and then it would be, yeah. So these are, and this is another great thing about this application, that you can use it with an external editor. So here I was adding information to help set up IntelliSense when you are doing MicroPython coding for ESP32 in NeoVim, because there would be, and I believe this issue does arise in on the VS Code side as well. It's not just in NeoVim. So the issue was so common that somebody had to actually make a repo containing a bunch of the stubs that you would need. The stubs, this was an interesting concept to learn. Stubs, apparently, they don't give you the functionality of whatever library it is, but they'll give you all of the various functions and classes and stuff like that. They'll give you just their names and definitions and additional like info about them. They don't give the functionality itself. They just give you those specific details. So those specific details can be used for something specific like IntelliSense. Because like in IntelliSense, you don't the IntelliSense system doesn't care about what the implementation of the function is. It just cares that okay, this is the function name, this is a signature, this is a small bit of documentation on it. So this is information that I have to give the user when they start typing something or when they hover over a function or over a class or whatever. So the stubs help you get that information, and there was a specific reason why um, the Python linter, I believe, was not able to get the information that it needed when it came to doing MicroPython coding for ESP32 and actually for other microcontrollers as well. But in my case, it was specifically ESP32. So once I did figure out the issue, I decided to make a journal entry, which was this. Actually, I believe I had first posted this on Threads because previously I used to do this thing where I would create a post on social media saying future ref, standing for future reference, and then I would add, whatever information I needed to add. But then I was like, okay, let me compile all of this into a knowledge base instead. So not only do I have my own knowledge base, so like anytime I am in a situation where I need to revisit any of these entries to get that bit of information again, it's super easy for me to access it, which is what I'm doing right now. But another reason I wanted to do that is because all of it is in one location, it'll be easier for me to serialize it and then uh, reformat it to post on some sort of website if I ever have one, which now I'm doing. Now I'm making the website, so it's going to be helpful. So this is an example of the knowledge base, and the other type of knowledge base, which isn't exactly a knowledge base, but like it's meant to serve as a knowledge base. It's going to be these conversations that I'm having with Gemini, which is Gemini Teaches. So Gemini is teaching me various things like um, Lua and how I can later use Lua for NeoVim configuration. And then another example, Gemini is teaching me the dot language, which is a graphing language, which you can use to describe graphs in a code form and then feed that code into a tool like GraphViz Dot, which is a CLI which is a CLI used to convert these dot files into an image. It renders out a proper graph drawing, and then renders it as an image for you. So your code, your graph that you described in code, it gets rendered as a properly drawn graph that you would otherwise be using other tools to make. So that's another conversation that I'm having. And one conversation I started recently with Gemini is cargo workspaces, because I'm going to need to learn that in order to be able to have one project with multiple sub projects in it. So there's a bunch of Gemini teaches slash Gemini explains conversations that I plan on exporting and then posting on the website. In fact, this entire knowledge base of mine, it's going to be posted on GitHub in a repo, which I'm going to constantly be updating. But also, um, not but also this. So I'm going to post this to GitHub. I'm also going to be posting the Gemini explains stuff to a GitHub repo. I need to prepare a sort of directory where each directory is for one of the lessons, one of the Gemini explains things, and I need to find a way to write the name, because so far I'm just thinking of the Rust way of writing. I forgot what it's called. Camel case, snake case. I don't think it's called camel because camel involves like uppercase letters. I think this is called snake case. I don't remember. But yeah, that's one way that I'm thinking I can write the names. But yeah, the way that I got to this point, like I was talking about this, the reason I was bringing this up is because we were talking about dynamic elements being generated by the Rust code. Yeah, at this point I can't remember. Okay, so we're gonna quit this and then quit this. No need to save. Let's come back here. Okay, just a minute. What is this? Oh, right. Okay, so continuing this thing that we were reading. Um, okay, you handle CSS separately, either with standard style sheets or with CSS in Rust solutions provided by the frameworks. That is something I should explore. That is definitely, I didn't know that was a thing. So I definitely need to look into how we would go about um, customizing the appearance. I'm sure the tutorial is going to teach all of that stuff. But yeah, I need to look into how we would go about customizing the appearance of the various components. Then, will it work with multiple small components? Yes, the best practice is to build one Dioxys application that contains all your components. You can then strategically place div ID placeholders throughout your Zola site, and your single WASM app can intelligently mount the correct component in the correct div. So it mentions throughout your site. It doesn't say throughout the web page because the site could mean multiple pages, right? I need to see if there's such a thing where regardless of which web page is loaded, the WASM runtime is always running separately. I need to see if there's some way to go about doing that, or is it that each time you load a new page, the WASM runtime is being loaded again? Because fortunately, it does use the cached copy, so it's not going to be downloading it again. It's just going to be loading it again. But if there's a way for me to even prevent that loading again, that would probably speed things up. The issue is, where exactly is it running then? Is there a way for me to have a separate worker thread? Um, but then, like, how are we keeping track of that thread in between page changes? I'm gonna need to look into that. Actually, that's a good question. I should ask Gemini about this later on. Um, that is it that the WASM runtime is reloaded on each page load, or is it that the WASM runtime can actually be launched as a separate worker and keep running, and then depending on which page you're currently loading, it's going to load different elements for you. So where was I? Yeah, okay. And your single WASM app can intelligently mount the correct component in the correct div. This is efficient because the user only downloads one WASM bundle. This approach gives you exactly what you want: the power, type safety, and ergonomics of Rust for building highly interactive components without ever having to leave Rust land during development. You get to focus on building great components, and the tooling handles the complex job of making it run in a browser. Okay. And then this was where I I asked it, okay, hey, is there a way? This was where I tried to move away from the WASM thing. Um, and I was trying to find out if there's a way, if there's a way to directly create JavaScript using Rust. The short answer is no. There's no reliable way of doing it. I'm going to read out a bit of this answer, maybe not the entire thing, because it's just explaining all of the stuff again. But yeah, here, okay. So, uh, my question was, or my prompt was, but this involves WASM, and you mentioned that it can be heavy. I'm talking about producing JS directly. So the response was, this is a fantastic and very precise question. It clarifies that your goal is to get the benefits of the Rust compiler and type system while outputting lightweight standard web assets. The short answer is no. This is not how the Rust web ecosystem works. There isn't a mature tool chain that directly transpiles idiomatic Rust UI code into standalone human readable JavaScript in a way that, for example, TypeScript or Svelte do. Let me explain why. Then it went into a whole thing about like why that's not possible. The gist of it is it's not possible, or it's not possible to do it in a reliable way, in a efficient way. Then this was this was where I learned about the. I believe this was where I learned about the caching thing, addressing the heaviness. So here it mentioned, I believe, it said the bad strategy is creating a separate Rust slash WASM project for every single tiny button. That was an extreme example, but I understood what I was trying to say. Or text input on your site, each one would carry that fixed cost and your site would be huge. Yeah. Um, it also mentioned above that this is where the strategy comes in. The 200 to 500 KB fixed cost of a WASM app is for the first component. Then it mentioned the good strategy, which is basically one application that handles a bunch of the different components, not multiple applications for each component. Um, yeah, then it gave ideas for how it can be done here, and then okay, then I further asked. I said, okay, wait, so the WASM binary is being loaded once for each page that uses it, not once for the entirety of the website, right? Also, if it's loaded per page, and I have two or three different types of apps for various pages, I can actually put them all into one Dioxys project. Is that even possible, or would I bundle all the functionality into one app and selectively load functionality based on page, component, etc. Also, you mentioned this thing about the app loading different components based on div and ID. So, as I mentioned before, I'm not very knowledgeable in web dev, very basic knowledge. So, I'm going to need you to explain to me that whole thing, how that whole thing is even possible. This was where I was trying to get um, Gemini to sort of handhold me and teach me about div and ID. I don't think I got to this part. Like, I don't think I actually read this entire part because I think I fell asleep um, shortly before being able to get even halfway through this response. So we can read it now. Okay, you are asking the perfect questions. These are the critical details that separate a theoretical idea from a practical, efficient implementation. Let's demystify this entire process. You've hit on three key points: how the WASM file is loaded and cached, how one Dioxys project can contain multiple separate apps, and how the code knows which app to run on a given page. Let me explain each one. Right. So here I believe it mentioned the whole thing about caching. So like the build is downloaded once, the WASM build is downloaded once, and it or the WASM binary is downloaded once, and after that the cached copy is used. So it's not downloading every single time. It might be loading. There's a difference between downloading and loading. So um, I need to clarify. Like, okay, sure, it's not downloading multiple times, but like, what about the loading? How often is the loading being done? Is it being done per page, or is it being, wait, they will navigate your entire website and any page that, hold on, as long as the user doesn't clear their browser cache, they will navigate your entire website, and any page that needs the Rust components will load the WASM bundle instantly from your own. Oh, okay, so it will load. Okay, any page that needs your Rust components will load the WASM bundle instantly. So then I need to do research. I need to clarify. I need to like just confirm this, which I'll do later on in the conversation with Gemini. But I also need to figure out if there is all that much of a um, performance cost if a web page has to load the WASM bundle. Like, is it really that heavy? Are we going to lose a bunch of seconds over it, or is it like milliseconds? Okay. How to put multiple apps in one project, the app launcher model. So my question was, if I have two or three different apps of different types of apps for various pages, I can actually put them all into one Dioxys project. Is that even possible? The answer was yes, that's not only possible, it is a standard and recommended way of doing things. You don't build separate projects. Instead, you build one project that contains multiple root components. Think of your single Dioxys project as an app launcher on your phone. The launcher itself is one application, but it can start many different programs, the calculator, the gallery, etc. Okay, so here it's showing this example. You would structure your Dioxys project like this. Right, so there's the app launcher, there's a code for so and so and so and so and so and so. Your main file will contain the master logic that decides which of the other components to actually run. Okay, the magic, how it knows which app to run on which page. How does this whole thing with the app loading different components based on div and ID even work? This is the brilliant part. It's a simple, elegant bridge between your static Zola world and your dynamic Rust world. Here's the step-by-step explanation for a beginner. Step one, in Zola, you create empty docs for your apps. On your Zola page, you place empty div elements. Think of these as empty plots of land waiting for a building. The ID is the street address for that plot. In your Zola template, for the pricing page, you would do this. Okay. In your Zola template for the gallery page, you would do this. All right. Wait, Zola template for so and so page. Okay, so you can create a separate. Okay, all right. Okay. I need to keep that in mind, dude. I need to like, there's like multiple different moving parts here that I need to take into account. Fortunately, um, I have like three separate projects that I plan on doing using both of these libraries, using both Zola and Dioxys. So that should give me a decent amount of practice. The The bummer there, the not so great part is that I'm not really going to be doing web dev for too long, if that makes sense. Because it's one of those things where it's like, okay, I'll build the website and then that's it. I have very little reason to use either of these tools after that. So I don't know if I really want to be putting too much time and effort into it. Yeah. Well, who knows? Maybe it's not going to take that long to get very basic knowledge of them. I don't need advanced knowledge, right? I need basic knowledge, which I can use to do stuff. So maybe I should avoid getting too deep into it. Okay, right. In Rust, your app launcher checks the street addresses. When your single WASM application loads on a page, its main function runs. This code's first and only job is to scan the page for one of your known docs. Here's a simplified version of your main.rs file of what your main.rs file would look like. If bindgen so and so so and so. I'm gonna need to look at Dioxys examples for this because I don't know. Well, Gemini did say it's a simplified version, but like I'm not sure if this is exactly how it works because Gemini does tend to hallucinate sometimes. So I'm gonna have to test this out. I'm not entirely sure if this is how it would work. It could very well be how it works, but I need to confirm it myself. Okay, the logic is simple. The Rust code runs. It asks the browser, hey, is there an element on this page with the ID so and so? If the answer is yes, because the user is on the pricing page, it launches Dioxys and injects the calculator component into that empty div. If the answer is no, it continues and asks, okay, well, is there an element with ID so and so? If the answer is yes, then launches Dioxys and injects the gallery component. Okay. Sorry, zoned out. Okay. Oh, that's the end of the conversation. Okay, cool. Whew. All right. So give me a second here. Um, just a second. Okay, you know what? I'm not right. Hold on, just a second. I was about to say I'm not sure who. Oh, wait a minute. I haven't seen Bayfinger and Baljeet in a while. So we're gonna go to Bayfinger and Baljeet. Bayfinger, is that? Yes, Bayfinger and Baljeet. So we're gonna go hang out in this person's stream for a bit. We rated this person 2 or 3 times before. They are pretty chill. Usually they have, um, they're talking about stuff or maybe playing something or something. But yeah, we're gonna go hang out there. So that's gonna be it for today's stream. Hopefully I can stream again tomorrow. Um, yeah, we've got a pretty good streak going so far, and I'm happy about it. I need to I need to um what's the word I'm trying I need to finish uploading all of the VODs to the VODs channel as well. There are some that I uploaded that I just put on private because I didn't have the time to enter the metadata for them. But yeah, yeah, dude, I'm excited. I'm excited for all of the stuff that all of the Rust stuff that we are getting into, dude. This should be fun. This should be interesting. I'm gonna try not to get sucked into web development way too much because clearly we have a bunch of other stuff to do and learn and stuff. So like I don't want to overdo it. But yeah, that's gonna be it for today's stream. I hope you guys have a nice day, and I'll see you all next time. Peace.